There are some myths about moms going around causing you unnecessary grief, and today we're going to address one of them. This is Motherhood Unmasked, the podcast for real talk about the challenges moms face. I'm your host, Vanessa Harris, but Mama, you are the hero, so leave your mask at the door. We're all friends here. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Motherhood Unmasked. Whether it's your first time visiting or you're a regular, I am so glad you're here. Well, this is the 9th episode of season 2, and my goal for this season is 12 episodes total. And so for the next few episodes, I thought it would be fun to mix it up a bit with a 3-part series. I'll start today on quote unquote good mom myths. And by that, I mean the ideals people attribute to quote unquote good moms, ideals that unfortunately we moms use to shame each other and even ourselves. These ideals aren't explicitly stated, unless by your mother-in-law, but I've seen them implied in the culture through all types of media and even in our own social circles. So in this series, I hope to tackle 3 of these myths. Whether the myths are lighthearted or strike a nerve with you, the fact is how you do what you do as a mom is a matter of style, influenced by your experience, your priorities, and your gifts or skill level. And since you are as unique as each of your children, you shouldn't be held captive to arbitrary standards. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can only do what's best for your children based on how you're wired, not some other mom. So let's have some fun and get into today's myth, which is, drum roll please, a good mom is a great cook. And great cook as in creates her own recipes, cooks by feel, and may even be found fixing hot breakfast on school days. They're like my mom or my mother-in-law who makes wonderful meals but can't tell you how much of what they put in the thing, like they don't know measurements. And if that's you, God bless your ministry. If the kitchen is your happy place, I think that's awesome. But I need a recipe because I don't think up tasty creations. And when it comes to school day breakfast, if my kids have a quote hot meal, it's because they got a hold of some toaster strudels or Eggo waffles. Now, I'll be happy to make some porridge because that was a favorite of mine growing up, but my kids prefer more instant items in the morning or certainly in a school day morning, and that's fine with me. But collecting recipes is where it's at for me. I have a binder full that I rotate through and we enjoy those meals. And while your superpower may be envisioning a meal and knowing which ingredients will bring it to life, mine is reading a recipe and knowing immediately if it will taste good or not. When my daughter was younger and she enjoyed her dinner, she would say the cutest thing. She'd say, "Mom, you're a good cooker." And I'd say, trying to correct her, I'd say, "A good cook? Thank you. But Mommy really is just a good reader because I read the recipes and I follow the directions." Look, whether you cook by feel or cook from a recipe, who cares? Because guess what? The kids are fed. And that's the win. What I find more important to my kids is whether I serve the meals with love. More than what they ate, it's the attitude with which I prepared it and served it. The book of Proverbs talks a lot about eating and even speaks about preferring to have a piece of bread in peace over an elaborate meal with a lot of drama involved. So I'm more concerned about the environment around my table than what's on it. That said, there's nothing like a home-cooked meal from someone anointed to cook. I have some girlfriends who pride themselves on their kitchen skills, and I am happy to go by their house and enjoy the benefits of those skills when I can. And then there's my mom and my mother-in-law who know how to throw down with no notes required. The whole family looks forward to enjoying their cooking. But you know what? I'm sure your family loves your cooking too. whether it's recipes you've collected from the internet or cookbooks and maybe even tweaked these recipes over the years, or it's a frozen pizza you cooked and added a salad to. Your family loves what you prepare because of the love you put in the dish. But maybe your mom is an excellent cook and you grew up attached to her hip learning all her recipes. Now you cook them for your children as an expression of the love you felt from her. You've inherited the culinary gene. You know what flavors go together and you never measure, yet your food always turns out amazing. But if you're like me and you cook mainly because you like to eat, and not only do you want to know what's in your food, you don't want to waste money on takeout every day, well, that works too. Whatever your skill level in the kitchen, rather than compare it to other moms, you do better to focus on what you feed your family and the heart you put in it, rather than how the meal comes together. Recently, I took a last-minute trip out of town with my mom to see one of my sisters. I left meal options for my husband, one of them being spaghetti and meatballs. When I came back and the kids gave me the rundown, you know how that goes, one of my sons mentioned, "Dad did all right on the spaghetti, but it's not like yours." I laughed because there's nothing special about my spaghetti and meatballs. I don't make fresh pasta. The sauce isn't even from scratch. Honestly, I really am not sure what my husband did different, though he is known for tossing in strange ingredients. But the only thing I can think that makes mine special is that while he'll throw the meal together, I'll prepare it with love. And the love makes all the difference. And hey, no shame if you're using those meal services that deliver all the ingredients and the recipe to make the meals that taste great in a flash. That's love too, and a home-cooked meal with fresh ingredients. Plus, you save time avoiding the grocery store, and they make that whole meal planning thing a breeze. And if you can afford paying for that convenience, then have at it. I'm all for making life easier on yourself any way you can. And sometimes that means hitting the drive-thru in a pinch, because life happens. And while I do it here and there, I wouldn't be a good pediatrician if I didn't warn against making fast food a habit for your family. A diet full of processed or high-fat foods is a recipe for disaster. So I encourage you to prepare meals that reflect the rainbow and represent all the food groups. And I know in this current economic downturn, that's a lot tougher to do these days, finding quality food you can afford, on top of the fact that food deserts exist in urban areas in this country. And if that's your situation, my heart goes out to you, because not being able to provide the quality food you want for your family is heartbreaking. But if you're able to get to an Aldi store, I highly recommend you shop there. It's a discount grocery store selling, the most popular grocery items, but under their private label of brands. The fresh produce is high quality and affordable, and you can even find organic and gluten-free items there. And no, they're not sponsoring this show, but I mention them because 1, I shop there for certain items, and 2, I know there's no substitute for quality food served at home, and Aldi is a way to make it happen at a lower cost. But the main purpose of this episode is to leave you with this. You don't have to be a great cook to be a good mom. A good mom does her best to put good food on the table, period. So you have nothing to feel guilty about. And don't let them social media posts or comments from friends about how they throw down in the kitchen breakfast, lunch, and dinner make you feel less than. Just aim to serve a healthy meal however you can and serve it with love. I hope you enjoyed this first installment in the Mom Myths series. I'd love to hear from you about what you thought about it. As I said earlier, this will be a 3-part series, but I'm still deciding what myth to tackle next, and I would love your help. So send me your mom myth pet peeve, either by email or voice message. You'll find the links to be able to do both at vinelifefaith.com/podcast. If you'd like a heads up on the topic I choose, along with the motivational voice message for moms I send every Monday, you can sign up for that also at, you guessed it, vinelifefaith.com/podcast. I'll see you back here next week for Mom Myth number 2. And please remember, when it comes to you being the mother of your children, you are the woman for the job. Take care. For all things Motherhood Unmasked, including fun and helpful resources and a link to leave me a message, check out vinelifefaith.com/podcast. Motherhood Unmasked is sponsored by Vine Life Faith, where we're breaking negative cycles and building healthy community through connection with Christ. vinelifefaith.com.